And he said, look, we have to dismantle
esa falsa
that
noticia.
fake
Hicimos
news.
una investigación.
We launched an investigation,
Revisamos,
we went
recuerda,
through,
82
remember the
periódicos, en
82
aquel momento era el
newspapers, at the
periódico,
moment was the newspapers,
de América Latina,
of Latin America,
de Madrid y de
from
Miami.
Madrid as well
Que
and Miami,
titularon en primera página una
that
acusación
titled
falsa
a
contra
fake
el
news
entonces presidente de
against
este
then
poder.
president of this power.
Hicimos la investigación
We
periodística.
launched a journalist
Empezamos a buscar
investigation.
el origen de la noticia.
We tried to find out
Empezamos
the
a buscar
origin
el
of the
vocero de la
news,
noticia.
the speaker of the news,
Empezamos a buscar el sustento
and we searched
jurídico.
for the
Porque
legal,
cuando tú haces una acusación, una difamación
because when
tan
you
grosera,
launch
tan burda,
a
tan
misinformation
inmoral como
so
la que se hace
immoral,
contra los poderes de
like
la República,
the one
que
being
no solamente
launched
contra el
against the
presidente
powers of the
Nicolás
Republic,
Maduro,
not just against President
debería haber,
Nicolás
aunque
Maduro,
sea,
there
algún
should be
hilo
even a
del cual
thread
pueda pender
of
esa gran
of
mentira. Pero no lo
that
había.
can support this
No había
news,
vocero,
but there was
no
no
había
support,
denuncia en ningún
no
tribunal.
speakers, no
El periódico
no
El Nacional de
denunciation in the
Venezuela
face of any tribunal.
citaba al ABC de
Venezuela
Madrid, el ABC de Madrid
was citing
citaba
the
al
ABC
diario
of
Las
Madrid,
Américas de Miami,
the
y el
ABC
diario Las Américas
cited
de
the
Miami
Diario
citaba
de
al
las
diario
Américas
Nacional
of
de
Miami,
Venezuela.
and
Ahorita
this news
estamos viendo
media
exactamente
cited
el mismo
Venezuela.
montaje,
Now we are seeing
pero
the same
amplificado,
the same
multiplicado
structure,
por miles y
multiplied,
millones,
amplified
con eso que
by
llaman la dictadura
millions
del
of
algoritmo.
what they are saying, of what is
Entonces,
known
quien
as the
encienda la
dictatorship
televisión,
of the
quien ve
algorithm.
televisión todavía,
Those who watch
en
TV
los medios
in the
norteamericanos,
North American medias,
van a ver cómo
you are
la
going
primera
to see
noticia
in
algo
the
que no
first
tiene
headline
lógica,
something that
que es
has
un
no
absurdo
logic, which
desde
is
todo
an
punto de
absurd
vista,
from any point of
pero que se
view,
impone como verdad
that is
absoluta,
imposed as a true
gracias al poder del
thanks to
conglomerado de
the
las
power
empresas de comunicación
of
que
the
todos sabemos
news
que
media
tienen como sustento
emporiums
la
that have
industria del
as a
armamentismo,
support the
la
armaments
industria de la
industry
tecnología
and
y
the
la
technology
industria
industry
internacional
and the
de la
international
energía.
industry of energy.
Se trata
It is about
de un solo propósito,
of a single purpose
de que nosotros
for
en el
us
sur y no
in
solamente
the south
Venezuela,
and not just Venezuela,
de que partiendo por
that
Venezuela
starting
se
with
genere una
Venezuela
situación de caos,
can
de inestabilidad
generate
que ya están
a
sembrando en
situation of
Ecuador,
chaos
con
in
los carteles de la
Venezuela that
droga,
are already being
que ya están
happening
sembrando
in
en Perú con los
Ecuador,
carteles de
also
la
in
droga,
Peru with the drug
que ahora se
cartels,
enfrentan contra
and
la
now
presidenta de
they are
México, a quien
facing
saludamos
against
desde
President
aquí
of
como diputada,
Mexico,
como diputado,
who we
una
greet
mujer
from
valiente,
here, a brave woman,
porque le está plantando
because
cara
she's
al
facing
reacomodo
the
que pretende
rearrangement
la élite
that tries
capitalista
to
hacer en el
impose
mundo.
the capitalist elite in the
¿Quiénes
world,
los que han querido
who are
siempre, desde los
the
tiempos de
that
la
want
colonia para
what
acá,
they want
que
forever, for
nosotros, los pueblos
decades,
del
for
sur,
us, the
paguemos
peoples of
el
the
precio de la
South, pay the
crisis?
price of the crisis?
Ese sistema
That system
me lo ha enseñado mi
that was
maestro y amigo el
taught
camarada
to
Soto
me
Rojas.
by Professor Soto
Está en
Rojas
crisis
is in crisis,
económica, política y
economically,
crisis moral.
politically, and
Una
moral
crisis que
crisis, a
se
crisis that
desborda,
is overflowing,
que hace aguas,
and
pero que hace aguas principalmente en
mainly
la cabeza del
because
imperio, que es el
mainly
gobierno de
inside the
Estados
head of
No
the United
hacen cómo
States.
tapar
They have no
la podredumbre
way
que
to
tienen de
hide
sociedad.
the rotten
si tienen un
society
pueblo
they
drogado en la
have.
calle,
They have
Si tienen la
an
economía más
addict
endeudada de
people,
todo el
an
planeta,
economy that
si
is
no saben
full
de dónde
in
sacar los
debt,
recursos
that don't know
minerales
how to take
y energéticos
from
que
where to
necesitan
take the
para mantener ese
resources
sistema que
to
no
support that
está
system
acorde
that
con
is
la
not in
vida en el
accordance with the
planeta,
life
que es
in the planet,
depredador.
that
Es una
it is
desesperación.
a
Y han puesto el
desperation,
blanco
and
sobre
they have put the
Venezuela.
blank in
Por eso
Venezuela,
imponen
the target in
eso que llamamos en
Venezuela.
la Universidad
That is why
Internacional de las Comunicaciones
that
la
we
narrativa
call the
gris,
narrative, the gray
que es una
narrative,
narrativa
which is
que se presenta, una narrativa para la
presented, a
guerra.
narrative for war,
Es una
a
narrativa que
narrative
pretende
that pretends
crear condiciones
create conditions,
políticas,
political
críticas,
conditions,
para cualquier acción,
critical
como lo han dicho
conditions
los
for any
voceros
actions,
del
as the
gobierno
speakers of the government of the United States has
Entonces se
mentioned,
presenta
and it
como una
presents
verdad
itself
absoluta,
as an
pero
absolute truth,
no
but
tiene
it
ningún
has
asidero,
no
y lo que busca
foundations, and
es
what they are
una estrategia
looking
que
for
busca
is
es
delegitimize the government,
pero que no tiene sustento
but has
de ningún
no
tipo,
support,
ni
no
político,
foundation, no political one,
ni de razón política,
not
porque
even
es que no es
of
no es que no tenga lógica política, es que
political
no tiene
reason.
razón
It has
política.
no political
Porque ¿cómo
reason.
puede
Because how
el
can
presidente de un
the
país
president of a country elected democratically
con su democracia
with its
como el
democracy
nuestro,
like the one we have,
ponerle precio a la cabeza y
impose
ofrecer
a price
recompensas por el
and offer
presidente
rewards
o
for
por
the
cualquier
president of
autoridad
any
de un
authority
país,
of a country,
una autoridad legítima,
an
electa
legitimate
democráticamente y
authority
en ejercicio?
democratically elected
¿Qué
and
razón
in
jurídica es
exercise.
esta?
What's the legal
¿Cómo es
reason
que todo el
behind
mundo
this?
lo repite como
How
si
is
fuera
it
normal?
possible that everyone repeats this as
Es una
if
visión
if it was
eurocéntrica,
a normal
racista,
thing? It is racist, it is
supremacista, la que
supremacist,
pretenden aplicar
the one that they try
sobre
to apply
Venezuela.
upon Venezuela.
Ahora,
Now,
ese discurso de muerte
that speech of
disfrazan
death
de
that
legalidad,
they disguise
disfrazan de
with
resolución,
legality and
pero que es un
resolution,
discurso para
but it is
la
a
muerte,
speech for
está
death.
en este momento en que
In
estamos hablando,
this moment as we are speaking, it is
en todo el
deployed
mundo
in the
occidental.
whole
Con
Western
algunas mentiras que
world
yo me voy a
with
permitir,
some lies that
con
I'm
el
going to,
permiso del presidente,
with the president's
tomar un par de
allowance,
ejemplos, ¿no?
I'm going to take a few
Uno,
examples. The first
los
one,
barcos
the ships
están llegando a las costas
are
venezolanas. Hay
arriving at
noticieros
the Venezuelan
mundo latino en
coasts.
Estados
There are
Unidos que lo está diciendo en
news
este momento.
medias that are saying this.
Se está imponiendo como una verdad.
It is
No somos
imposed.
nosotros
This
aquí en la
it is.
Asamblea
It
Nacional,
has
no
been
tenemos esa
imposed as
competencia
a true.
para saber
We have
cuál
no
es el
no
motivo
permission
militar o la
to
situación que hay en
know
este momento,
what's
pero yo les quiero
the
leer
political situation
un
for
trabajo que
this.
hizo un
But I
portal que
want
se
to
llama La
read
Tabla
you
de Datos.
an analysis
Ellos hacen un trabajo de
published by
investigación
La
en el
Tabla
cual
de
le hacen
Datos, in
seguimiento
which they
a
are
las rutas
making
de
a
comercio,
following
a las
up the
rutas
routes of
aéreas,
commerce,
las
the aerial
rutas
routes,
militares, a las
military
trazas,
routes,
sobre todo financieras,
finance,
y dice la
traces as
tabla.
well. And the
Un
table
despacho de la
says,
agencia Reuters
a,
publicado el
a
lunes 18
report
de
by the
agosto
Reuters
afirmó que
agency
tres destructores
published in
estadounidenses
August assured that
el
3
USS
destroyers
Gravely
of the U.S.
de DG-107,
DG-107
el USS
QS,
Jason Duham de DG-109
the
y el USS
GG-109 and
de
USG
DG-102
Samsung
se aproximaban a
are
las aguas de Venezuela en las próximas
are
36
approximating
horas.
Venezuelan waters in the upcoming
Para
36
operaciones
hours
contra
for
los carteles de la
operations
droga.
against drug
Sin
cartels.
embargo, una
However,
verificación de la
a
tabla con
verification
acceso a
of
datos
La Tabla to
oficiales de la Armada de
with
Estados
access
Unidos
to official
y
data of the
reportes
U.S.
del despliegue
and reports of the
desmienten
deployment are
categóricamente
denying
esta
categorically
información.
this information.
Ubicación del
The
USS Samson de
location of the
DG-102
U.S.
Pacífico
Sanction
Oriental, Comando
Pacific
Norte.
or Western
Misión,
Pacific say
interdicción de drogas.
mission
Último operativo el
stop
11 y
drug
12 de
cartels.
agosto, incautando
Last operative
1.500
in
kilos de
12
cocaína.
and 13th of August,
Pacífico.
seizing tons of cocaine in the Pacific.
Yo me acuerdo del presidente
I
Rafael
remember
Correa,
Rafael
echaba un
Correa's
chiste y decía que cuando
president
Colón
said
salió a buscar
that when
las
Colón
Indias,
went to try to
bastante
find the
perdido.
Indias was kind of lost,
cuando vino a conquistar,
and when he
que
came to
se logró buscar las
colonize
Indias, creo que ellos también están un poco
colonizers,
perdidos
I
del
think they are
otro lado del mundo.
already a little bit lost.
USS Jason Duham,
Jason
estado
Duhas
inactivo en la
is
base naval de
inactive
Mayport,
in the
Florida, desde
base of
junio
May
de
in
2025.
Florida from June
Contexto,
2025.
regresó del
Context,
despliegue del Mar
he
Rojo
came
contra
from
Houthis
the
y está
the
ahora
Red Sea
inactivo.
against
Y el último,
Houthis
el
and is
USS
inactive now.
Gravely, de
And the USS
único activo en la región,
DG-107,
está
the
en el
only one that
en
is
el
active in the
Golfo de
region, is in
México,
the Gulf of
Comando
Mexico,
Norte,
with the North
colaborando
Command
con la Guardia
collaborating with
Costera
the Guard,
Mexicana.
the Guard Corps.
Es una
The
investigación
Coastal
periodística
Guard
que
of
nosotros
Mexico. This is an
consignamos aquí a la
investigation,
Asamblea
journalist
Nacional para que
investigation
se
that we
estudie,
share with the
pero
National
que
Assembly to
desmiente
be
la
studied,
narrativa.
but
Y
denies
hemos
the
visto
narrative.
cosas que
But
aunque
we've
aquí a
seen
nosotros nos dé
things
risa,
that even when it makes us
se
laugh,
posiciona
it
como una verdad
positions
absoluta.
as a
La señora
complete
Pamela
true.
Bondi, la fiscal
Pamela Bondi,
general de Estados
the
Unidos, ha
general
dicho muchas
prosecutor
mentiras.
of the United States, has
Algunas que
said a
realmente
lot of
ridículas.
lies.
Pero decir
But to
que aquí en
say
Venezuela
that
no
here
estamos
in Venezuela
comiendo
we are
los animales del zoológico,
eating the zoo
porque estamos
animals
pasando
because we
hambre,
are hungry
no
and we are
solamente es
starving,
absurdo,
it's not
ridículo,
just
sino que ya
ridiculous,
una
but it
narrativa
is
que
also a
trataron de
narrative
imponer y
they
que
tried to
fracasó aquí en
impose
Venezuela.
previously against
Yo les
Venezuela
invito
and
a que vengan a las
failed.
playas de La
I invite
Guaira,
you to
a
come
las
to
playas
La
de
Guaira
Margarita, a las
beaches
playas de
and
Anzoátegui,
Margarita
que
beaches
se dé
as
un
well, and
bañito,
in
que bastante
Sautegui
falta que le
beaches,
hace.
and come here to take a bath in our beaches. I think she needs
Ah,
this.
Le va a hacer bien.
It's going to do good for her. The only animals we are going to eat are the mercenaries who dare to set up foot in this homeland.
Y luego,
And then
felicitar,
we want to congratulate what we have achieved here,
porque siempre
because
nos toca decirlo.
we need to say this.
Nosotros hicimos de
We
mayo
did
de
from May
2024 para acá
2024 until today 6
para
elections
renovar
to
cargos
renovate political
¿verdad?
charges and positions.
renovamos
We renovated
3.375
3,375
Presidente de la
charges, the
República,
President of the Republic,
gobernadores,
governors,
consejos legislativos,
legislative councils, deputies to the National Assembly, majors, councillors, and without taking into account the popular consultation, the people's consultation.
¿Dónde está el concepto
Where
de
is the
democracia
concept
que
of
esas
democracy
personas
that
están
those
mirando?
people are
¿Por qué
watching?
desconocen la
Why
democracia
are they
venezolana que le
delegitimizing
podía
the
dar
democracy
lecciones
of
no
Venezuela
solamente a
that
la de
could
los Estados
offer
Unidos,
some lessons
sino
to the
también a la
one
democracia de muchos
imposed on
países
the
que
United
tienen
States
un
and
sistema
many
mucho menos
countries in the world that
participativo y
have a
protagónico
very
que el nuestro?
lesser
¿Quién les da el
participative
derecho
democracy
a
process,
votar al
who allow them to
Es una estrategia de
delegitimize
propaganda que busca horadar la dignidad
the
nacional,
willing of the people.
usando el
They are
linchamiento moral del
using
liderazgo
the
revolucionario
revolutionary
para
leadership
aniquilar
to
en el imaginario
annihilate in
nacional
the
e
national
internacional
imagery
las grandes
the
victorias
great
que hemos
victories we
conquistado,
have conquered,
amalgamando espacios pequeños de
opening
ternura y de vida en
spaces
comunidad.
of living
Enumeramos
in
algunas.
community.
Crecimiento económico del 6,6%.
We have managed to grow our
En
economy in
2025, plena
2025.
soberanía en producción de alimentos,
We have a plain
estabilidad
sovereignty in
política y
food
seguridad
production,
ciudadana,
political
golpes
stability, and
certeros al
citizen
crimen
security,
organizado, entre ellos el
blow-ups
narcotráfico y el terrorismo,
blows to the
destacada actuación de
organized
nuestra
crime,
juventud en escenarios deportivos,
outstanding
científicos,
participation
culturales,
of our
nacionales
people in cultural
e
and
institucionales, y lo
sport
más
events,
demoledor,
and the most important
la
one,
fe,
the faith,
la alegría creciente
the
del pueblo
joyful
venezolano.
of the Venezuelan,
Sabia
the
vital
joy
que
of the Venezuelan
recorre y
people
estremece el
that
nervio
trembles
popular de
the
todo
popular
el
nerve
continente
of the
americano.
whole
Eso es lo que
continent
le
of
duele.
Latin America. That's what
Por
is
eso van
painful
contra el
for them,
presidente
and that is
Nicolás
why
Maduro.
they are
Y
behind
por eso,
President
porque
Nicolás
tenemos
Maduro, and
todo
that is
esto,
the
porque
reason
hemos
why,
logrado
because of
todo esto,
all of our
vimos ayer al
achievements. We
presidente
saw
Nicolás
yesterday
Maduro,
President
acompañado
Nicolás
de
Maduro
su alto
accompanied of his
gobierno,
high
en las
government
calles del
officials on the
Guarataro,
streets of
cantando,
Guarataro,
bailando
singing
salsa,
and
¿verdad?
dancing salsa,
Acompañado del
accompanied
pueblo
by the
con
people
alegría,
with joy,
porque no es
because
solamente
it's
con
not
unos
just
destructores si es que los
with
mandan, no es
destructors,
solamente con
it's not
marines que
just
se
with
puede
marines
conquistar un
that
país.
a country can be
Tienen que
conquered. They
conquistar
have to
no
conquer,
conquistar,
not
derrotar el
conquer,
alma nacional.
defeat the
Y el alma
national
nacional de
soul, and the
Venezuela es
national soul is
indestructible en este
indestructible in
momento,
this
porque somos
moment,
una patria
because we are a
libre,
homeland
soberana e
free, sovereign,
independiente.
independent.
Chávez
Chavez
nos lo va a quitar.
gave this to us, and no one is going to take it away from us.
Conseguí esta mañana
Early this
buscando a
morning,
Pablo Neruda
trying to find Pablo
compilación de Luis
Neruda,
Navarrete
a compilation of Luis
de
Navarrete,
los escritos
of
de
the
Neruda
writings of
sobre
Neruda
Venezuela.
about
Y
Venezuela.
conseguí
And
algo
I
que yo sé que le va a gustar
find
al
out
presidente de la
something that I
Asamblea,
think is
poeta.
going to be liked by President
una
of the
carta que
National
le
Assembly,
manda
who
a
is a
Miguel
poet
Otero
himself.
Silva.
It's a letter he sent to
Yo
Miguel
creo que
Otero,
algunos
and I think
que
some
tienen la
of
sangre de
you
Miguel
who
Otero
have
tal
the
vez no la
blood
leyeron.
of Miguel Otero have never read it.
Pero Neruda
But
cuenta cómo él
Neruda
recuperó
tells
la
how
alegría
he
de la vida,
recovered the joy for life
todos los inconvenientes de vida que
through
tuvo él,
all
estaba
its
en una poesía muy
inconvenience
triste, muy
through
gris.
life,
Y su paso por Venezuela
and
le
his
hizo
path through Venezuela
bien,
made him
como a
good,
muchos que han venido a
as
Venezuela en
many
este momento,
of the
¿verdad?
people who have come to
Y le
Venezuela.
dice,
And he
qué
said,
azul es la vida, Miguel,
how blue is
cuando hemos
life
puesto en ella
when
amor
we
y
put
lucha,
so much
palabras
love
que
and,
son el pan y el
and
vino,
struggle in them, in
palabras
it.
que ellos, los del
Words
norte,
that them,
no pueden
those of the
deshonrar
north,
todavía,
can't
porque nosotros
overshadow,
salimos a la
because
calle
we
con
came to the
escopeta y
streets
canto.
with
Están
arms and
perdidos
chants.
con
They are
nosotros,
lost
Miguel.
with us,
¿Qué pueden
Miguel.
hacer sino
What can they
matarnos? Y
do
aún
with,
así
if not killing
les
us?
resulta un mal
And even
negocio.
that, it could be a bad business. They can try to rent a room in front of us and follow us, to understand, to learn how to smile and cry like us. Long live to Venezuela. So, I want to close my idea as president with a proposal. For Miguel Otero, that applause, that round of applause. I want to close with a proposal because, like we came here today, all of the deputies and also from the opposition, and that, like President Nicolás Maduro has received manifestations of solidarity from the whole world, from political and academic world and diplomatic world, social movements. I think it is a responsibility for each of and every one of us. It's not a moment of calculations. It is not a moment of weakness. So I think all of the deputies that we are here in this assembly, including the colleagues from the opposition, we need to do our work for the homeland. We need to dismantle this narrative. We need to be in a diplomatic offensive and parliamentary offensive, speak with a group of solidarity, with the allies, with the political parties, for the truth of Venezuela to be known, because they are launching this narrative with intentions that we do not know now. We can underestimate the enemy. Venezuela is armed in every sense. Those who listen to President Nicolás Maduro's from the Guarataro beautiful speech, those who have seen the vice president, political vice presidency, knows that Venezuela has political, moral, ideological and historical arms, and the true ones as well, and also has a popular organization that impedes and makes us safeguard us from any foreign attempt against Venezuela, because our work as deputies have been that when we were in campaign, all of us on the streets. Anyone think what would have happened if that arsenal of war that we have found today would have conquered and concrete an action against Venezuelans? What would have happened against our communes, our daughters and sons and our homes today, thanks to the fusion, popular, military, and this fusion we have a democracy. And we are very proud of that, but that right wing, without sensibility, doesn't care, bombing our train stations, doesn't bother of killing Venezuelans. So we need to make a single front for Venezuela, for our homeland. What did Martí say? It is a conjunction of love, and it is that portion of humanity that we have close. That's the homeland. So with this proposal, presidents, citizens, deputies, I want to read the agreement that we are going to present to your consideration today. Go ahead. Water for the deputy, please. Thank you. National Assembly Agreement and in defense of sovereignty, the protection of the homeland and the institutions of the Venezuelan peace. We considering that the Venezuelan people, its legitimate government and institutions of the state in a clear way and decided have bet on the defense of the homeland and its symbols, the guarding and the territorial integrity, the self-determination as a free people and the interest of the nation, and likewise the supreme vigilance of the interest of the Republic, the conservation of peace, stability, political stability, and the application of law in all of the national territory, condemning any attempt, fascist, terrorist attempt to pretend to destabilize its solid democracy considering that the political police and military union through the quadrants of peace as the key of the 3T transformation has been a strategy imposed by the Bolivarian government to guarantee the civilian society, the peaceful coexistence and the integral defense and stability of the country in the 5,536 communal circuits at this moment at a national level. We considering as well under the formula of popular military police union, we have sent blows to the narco trafficking and seizing airplanes for the violation of our aerial space, and tons of drugs and high caliber weapons and lethal weapons in 2025, and the efficiency of the labor that allowed to de-articulate actions fabricated through lies by the extreme right wing of Venezuela in desperate attempts to attack strategic installations and get mercenaries into the country through actions. All of these actions promoted and financed by the U.S. government in its unsuccessful effort to colonize Venezuela, agree on first place to repudiate any hostile action, threat, terrorist attack that attempt against the integrity of constitutional president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, and other high officials from the Venezuelan state, and also the firm repudiation of those acts that try to subjugate our sovereignty and the human rights of the Venezuelan people. And on second place, to recognize and thank the methodical investigations of the security bodies of the state in a perfect functioning of the safeguarding of the national territory of the union between police and military and popular, and some of them have protected the security of the country as it is the will of the people, and together have been safeguarding the security of the country. In third place, in the popular system of protection for peace, and in an central instance of the social intelligence in all of the spheres of the nation, and in the consolidation of the communal coexistence and the strengthening of the organization of the people for defense, the integral defense of the homeland through the fusion, military, police and popular fusion in any sphere of the nation. And in fourth place, reaffirm our historical position in the defense of the homeland and the just causes in the face of the attempts of the imperial attempts of the United States and sectors of mercenaries from the extreme right wing that are trying to vulnerate peace, order and well-being of our country. Fifth, publish this agreement in the official gazette and offer a maximum information according to the National Assembly's laws in the Legislative Palace, headquarters of the National Assembly, on August 20th, 2025, in the year of 2015, years of independence of the Bolivarian Revolution. Thank you very much, deputies. The deputy Tania Diaz was informing the agreement in support of the sovereignty of Venezuela and the institutions, also peace, in accordance with the Article 220. I'm going to offer the word for Deputy Among the agreements, it is included as well the President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, in the face of the attacks, most recent attacks launched by the United States government led by Donald Trump. Now we are going to listen to opposition deputy, colleagues, deputies, and the women and men. We are fulfilling 100 years in which Master Gallegos wrote Doña Bárbara to draft the Venezuela of the of
Hoy
the
estamos ya
setbacks. Today we are
a los 25 años
to 25
del siglo
years
XXI.
of the 21st century,
Estamos
and
en
we
plena
are in plain
civilización.
civilization.
Debemos estar
We must be
por encima
above
de diferencias.
of differences.
Y hoy vengo
And today I come here
al máximo poder
to the maximum
legislativo de Venezuela
legislative power of Venezuela
en mi condición
in my
de
condition
secretario
of
general de
Secretary
Acción
General of
Democrática,
Democratic Action,
hablar en su
to
nombre
speak on its
y
behalf
hablar
and
en nombre de
speak
todos los
on
partidos
behalf of
políticos
all the
que
political
integran la
parties that
alianza
form the alliance,
democrática.
the Democratic Alliance.
Tenemos
We
diferencias
have different
ideológicas
ideological differences
y de otras
and some
con el presidente
on others
Nicolás
with
Maduro
President Nicolás Maduro
los que
Moros,
presiden la
with
junta
those who
directiva
preside the
y con la
the
mayoría de la bancada acá
directive
presente.
junta, and with most of the members
Pero
of
eso
this
no
assembly, but
impide
that do not impede us
Que hablemos
to speak
el mismo lenguaje
the same language.
y vengo a
Here to say to you,
todas las
to all Venezuelans,
todos los venezolanos
women and men,
que subo
that
a esta tribuna
I am here at
con
this
mucha
podium
indignación
with very much indignation and
por la
anger
insolencia
for the
de uno
insolent
de los imperios,
actions of
en
one of
este
the
caso,
empires, in this
el
case
norteamericano.
of the North American Empire.
¿Quién es
Who is
el presidente
the
Trump
President Trump? Who is President Trump?
o cualquiera que
Or
ejerza
any other
la
that
presidencia
rules
en
the
el
presidency
norte
in the North
para venir
to come
a violar
here and violate
soberanía
the
venezolana?
sovereignty of Venezuela,
el principio
the
de la
principle
no
of
injerencia,
the not
el
interference,
derecho
the
internacional.
international law.
Desde que llegamos nosotros
Since we
acá
came here, we arrived here
a esta Asamblea
to this
Nacional,
National Assembly.
en muchas
In
oportunidades
several occasions,
hemos tenido
we
que
have had
enfrentar
to face
y hablarle a
and
Venezuela
speak to
y hablarle
Venezuela
a todos los
and to
países del
all of the
mundo
countries of the world
de la intromisión,
of the interference of the U.S. government,
bien sea porque esté
because they
presidido por
are
un
presided
demócrata
by a
o
Democrat
un
or a
republicano,
Republican,
auspiciando golpes de
financing
Estado
coup
en
d'etats
Venezuela,
in Venezuela,
impulsando
and
sanciones
boosting in
económicas,
economic sanctions,
impulsando
imposing
una cantidad de
a
castigos
great amount
para con el país y para con
of
sus altos
sanctions against the
funcionarios.
country and its high
Hoy en día
officials. Today,
está muy claro
it is very
lo
clear
que se pretende
what they pretend to do
enlodar
to
el nombre del
overshadow
presidente
the
de la
name of
República,
President of the
de
Republic,
altos
of
funcionarios
high officials
y de oficiales de nuestras
and
queridas Fuerzas
officials
Armadas.
our beloved armed
Para
Bolivarian
llegar a
armed
la
forces to get to the
que
conclusion
hay méritos
that there are merits
o que hay razones
or reasons
para invadir
to invade
políticamente,
politically
militarmente a
and military
Venezuela.
Venezuela,
Y eso no debe
and that
aceptarlo
we will
ningún
never
venezolano.
allow it.
Debe
Non-Venezuela
aceptar
should
esta injerencia
allow
y
that
esa
interference
tremendura.
and that attempt.
Yo vengo a
I
pedirle
come here to ask
a esta
to
Asamblea
this
Nacional
National Assembly
que nos dirijamos de
that
inmediato
we go
al señor
immediately
presidente de la
to
República
speak to
para
the
que se
President of the
convoque
Republic
a todos los
for him to
sectores
call all
de las
sectors
fuerzas políticas,
of the political
militares,
forces, military
civiles,
forces,
empresariales,
civilian
sindicales,
entrepreneurship,
para que hagamos
for
causa
us
común
to
en la
build a
defensa de la
common
soberanía
cause in the defense
venezolana,
and sovereignty
en
of
defensa de la
Venezuela, in
democracia.
defense of democracy.
¿Hasta cuándo,
Un-
señores?
Enough is
Vamos
enough.
nosotros a estar
We
permitiendo
cannot allow
que Estados Unidos
that the
ponga
United States
a
puts
Venezuela como un pobre
Venezuela
país.
as a
Nosotros
poor
somos un
nation.
país
We are a
completo,
country,
un
a full
país con
country,
energía, un
a
país
full
con
with
libertad,
energy, with
un
freedom,
país
a
con
country with
democracia y un país
democracy, and a
con hombres y
country
mujeres
with
valiosos
women
y
and
con
men,
méritos suficientes.
valuable men and
Ya
women
no
with
podemos
merits. We
nosotros
can stand
seguir
this
aguantando
anymore.
esto. Yo observo
I observe
que Estados Unidos, que al
that the United
fondo
States, at the very
también ha
end,
visto en el
it
club
also
del
has
vacío
seen in the
disminuir su
world
poderío
how
ante otras
its
fuerzas
power
que lo
is
vienen
diminishing
opacando
in
económicamente,
the face of forces that have been
políticamente, y a lo
overshadowing
mejor los que andan aquí
overshadowing
también
the United States
buscando a ver cómo
economically and
sobreviven.
politically, and they
Tienen
are
que aquellos
trying to
sobrevivir y a
find
buscar
ways
de
on how to
sobrevivir de otra
survive.
manera,
They
pero
need
no
to
en
survive
costilla
in
costilla
other
del pueblo
ways, but
venezolano.
not on behalf of the Venezuelan people.
Quiero dejar
I
constancia
want to
también
make it
Estados
clear
Unidos
that the United
mueve sus
States
teclas
is moving its
porque hay
webs
sectores,
because there are
hay
sectors,
mujeres,
are women,
hay hombres
men
de la ultraderecha
from the
venezolana
ultra-right wing of
que no han
Venezuela
podido
that
sentarse en esta Asamblea
haven't been
Nacional,
able to be
que no han
seated here
no
in
han
the
podido
National
sentarse con
Assembly
las naciones,
and not
no han podido
allowed
sentarse
to
en
have
Miraflores
spaces in
por la vía del voto, y
governance
después
and
que
Miraflores
Venezuela
through the
consultara,
vote way,
Venezuela
and
elige
now
sus
Venezuela
presidentes,
is
elige sus
electing its
gobernadores,
president,
sus alcaldes,
governors,
ellos no están
majors. They are
presentes
not
porque tienen
present
rechazo
because
del
they
pueblo
have
y
the
se van a
rejection of the country,
Norteamérica,
and they
se van a
travel to the
Estados
United
Unidos a
States
pedir
to
que
ask
vengan a
for
destrozarnos
them
a
to
todos
come
nosotros,
here
que
to
vengan
overthrow us,
a sacrificar
to come
al
here to
pueblo
sacrifice
venezolano.
the Venezuelan
Eso
people.
también
That
quiero
also I
dejarlo
want to
constancia y
make it
quiero
clear
dejarlo claro.
here.
Vamos,
We are
venezolanas y venezolanos,
go
con
Venezuelans
toda la
with
fuerza,
all of our
pensando
strength,
en nuestros
thinking
antepasados,
on our
pensando en nuestros hijos,
heroes,
y en
on
esta
our daughters
patria.
and sons in
Vamos a
this
unirnos
homeland. We
todos
need to
sin
unite, all of
vecindad,
us,
apartando las diferencias políticas,
putting
a
aside the
defender a
political
Venezuela.
differences to defend
Venezuela de
Venezuela.
todos, Venezuela no es de
Venezuela
nadie.
is
Muchas
of
gracias,
all of us. Thank
amigas
you
y
very
amigos
much,
parlamentarios, y
friends
muchas
from this
gracias a esta
parliament, and
directiva.
thank you as well for the directive
Bueno,
of
ahí
this
se escuchaba
assembly.
otra vez de la
We were
pantalla
listening
venezolana
to the
de
opposition
televisión al
deputy
diputado de la
of
Alianza
the
Democrática, de la bancada
Democratic
opositora, Manuel
Alliance
Gutiérrez,
from the
rechazando de
opposition,
forma enérgica el
Gutierrez,
intento de violar la
rejecting
soberanía por
the
parte del
attempts
presidente de
to
Estados
violate
Unidos,
the
Donald
sovereignty of
Trump. Ha
Venezuela
llamado
on
a
behalf
la
of
unidad a todos los
the
sectores
US
del
President
país,
Donald Trump. He was
apartando
calling
las
the unity
diferencias
of the whole
ideológicas, como lo ha
country,
dicho
putting
el
aside
diputado
differences, the
opositor.
political and
Además,
ideological
ha
differences.
rechazado
He
hoy
also
en día
rejected
a
today
esta
this
ultraderecha
ultra-right
venezolana que ha
wing
sido
of
rechazada
Venezuela that has been
en
also
distintos momentos por el
rejected in
pueblo
several
venezolano, que
occasions
no ha
by
podido
the same
llegar
people
a
of
Miraflores, a
Venezuela
la presidencia de
that
la
hasn't
República,
been
que no ha podido
allowed
llegar a
to
las
take
gobernaciones, a la
or to
alcaldía, y
occupy
que hoy
positions,
pretende,
political positions,
con la
because
violación
the
de la
people
soberanía
has
por parte del
rejected them,
gobierno de
and
Estados
now
Unidos,
they are the ones
hacerse
who are
con el
asking
poder.
a violation
Seguimos escuchando al presidente de la
of the
Asamblea
foreign
Nacional,
of a
ahora
foreign
el
intervention.
vicepresidente
Now
de la Asamblea
let's
Nacional,
listen to the first
Pedro
Vice President
Infante.
of the National
Presidente,
Assembly, Pedro
buenas
Infante.
tardes
Good afternoon
para todos
to all of
y para
you,
todas, colegas parlamentarios,
colleagues from
buenas
the
tardes al
Assembly.
pueblo
Good afternoon to
de
the people of
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Bueno, hoy se ha
Today,
presentado a este
it was
parlamento
presented
y debe
before
conocer
this
nuestro pueblo un
parliament
acuerdo en
uh,
respaldo y
an
defensa
agreement
de la
in
soberanía,
support of the
la protección del
sovereignty,
territorio,
protection of the
las
national
instituciones
territory, the
venezolanas y la
institutions of
paz.
Venezuela, and peace.
Hay intento de injerencia
There are
de
attempts
potencias
of
extranjeras.
interference from foreign
Hay quienes
powers.
pretenden
There are
horadar
people
nuestro
who
territorio,
try to violate our
nuestro mar
territory,
territorial,
our territorial
nuestra
sea,
soberanía.
our sovereignty,
y hay quienes quieren
and there are people
traer
who
la
want to
guerra
bring war
a
to,
nuestro
to our people.
Ya lo señalaban los
They
parlamentarios
pointed
que me
out this,
antecedieron.
the
Siempre
deputies
aparece
before
el
me.
imperialismo
There's always the
norteamericano
US imperialism
promoviendo,
promoting,
financiando,
financing,
auspiciando
financing
agresiones contra nuestra
aggressions
patria.
against our homeland.
Yo quiero dejar algunos
I
datos
want to
claros
show
en
you
este
some
debate.
data in this debate.
Los Estados Unidos de
The United
Norteamérica
States of the
son
Americas
los mayores
are the
traficantes
greatest
de armas
traffickers of
del
arms
mundo.
of the world.
Los Estados Unidos de
The United
Norteamérica
States of America
son los mayores
are the greatest
consumidores
consumers of
de droga
drug
del mundo.
of the world.
Los Estados Unidos de
The
Norteamérica
United
es
States
el
of
mayor
America is the
paraíso
biggest
fiscal para el lavado
fiscal
de dinero
paradise
proveniente
for
del
the
narcotráfico
money
y
laundering
del
that
tráfico de
comes
armas
from
del
drug
mundo.
trafficking and armed trafficking
Los
of the
Estados
world.
Unidos de
The
Norteamérica
United States of
es el
America
país que
is the
probablemente
country that
haya
probably
violado más
has
veces la
violated
Carta de Naciones
more
Unidas
times the
siquiera
United
firma la
Nations
Convención
Charter,
de
and
Derechos
he
Humanos
doesn't even
establecida
sign
por
the
Naciones Unidas.
Convention of Human Rights
El
established by the
80% de
United
los
Nations.
conflictos
The
bélicos de los
80% of
últimos
the
200 años, es decir, las guerras,
the
las ha
wars
iniciado
worldwide
Estados Unidos.
have been initiated by the United
En
States
este
in the
momento
past
hay
couple of
56
decades. At
conflictos
this moment, there are
armados en
56
92
armed
países
conflicts in
y en
92
todos
countries, and in all of
tiene las
them,
manos metidas
the
el
United States has its
imperialismo
arms inside of
norteamericano
this
por sus intereses
because of its
imperiales.
imperial interests.
Es Estados Unidos
The United
tiene una
States
base
has a
naval ilegal en
naval
Guantánamo.
base in Guantanamo, in
es
Cuba.
Estados Unidos
Is the United States
que
the one
alquiló una
that
cárcel
that
en El
hired
Salvador.
jail
Es
in El
Estados
Salvador?
Unidos
Is the United States the
que
one
construyó
that
recientemente
built up
una cárcel
recently
para
a
migrantes
jail for
latinos, la
for
llamada
Latino migrants they called
Alligator,
Alligator
Estados
Alcatraz
Unidos,
in the United States,
donde cada 2
in
días
which
hay
every 2
matanza
days there are
de niños y
massacres
jóvenes
of
en
boys
liceos
and
y en
children
escuelas.
in schools.
Es Estados Unidos
Is in the United
donde
States
persiguen
where
a migrantes
migrants are
latinos
persecuted, Latino migrants, Muslims,
o a la gente por ser
or
afrodescendiente.
people for being
Eso es el
Afro-descendants.
imperialismo
That's imperialism,
norteamericano.
the U.S. imperialism.
Esos mismos
Those
que
are the
tienen
ones who
más de
have
20 años,
over 20,
25 años para ser
25
exacto,
years to be exact,
tratando de
trying
instalar la
to
idea
install
de
the
que en
idea
Venezuela hay
that in
dictadura.
Venezuela there is a
Y le
dictatorship.
decimos, en
And we
Venezuela se
say
han
in
hecho en los
Venezuela
últimos
there have
25
been in the past 25 years, 23, 32, 33, 34 elections, and in the past 2 years, 6 popular consultations in which we consult the people, their problems, their projects, and we hand over to them the resources to resolve this. And they accuse us of violations of human rights. This constitution is profoundly humanist, the most humanist of the whole world, perhaps. In this revolution, we have built up great missions for the social protections of the human rights of our people. But and also, inside this revolution, we build up a plan, back to the homeland plan, to protect our migrants from countries and systems that actually do violate their human rights. They are accusing us of being a terrorist state, and I need to remind you the case of the snipers of April 2002 and the drones charged with explosives of August 4th, 2018, under terrorist financed and trained and financed by you in Colombian territories, articulated with narco-traffic in the Gedeon operation, among other facts in which you, the U.S., have financed terrorism. You want to accuse us of narco-trafficking, and they are speaking about the cartel of the soles, which the United States is the greatest consumer, the country of drugs. Most of the drug of the world is consumed in the United States, and the second place is the European Union, and in the third place is Israel. You are the ones directly linked to narco-trafficking. Speaking of this, one of the aggressions in this narrative has to do with narco-trafficking. Tanya said so. The first information source was Reuters, and Tanya made it very clear. I'm not going to go deep into this, but there are 3 demarcations. The Samson is at the Asia Pacific. The second one, Jason Duhan, is inactive in a military naval base in the United States. And the third one, the Gravely, is on the Gulf of Mexico. But also, this Gravely that is more close to us has key functions as police and patrol. The U.S. imperialism and its aggressions are accompanied by psychological war. We explain this here, the psychological war and cognitive war. You have had to receive messages from colleagues asking, or people who are abroad, or families of anyone who is abroad, and said, oh, do you think it is true that the Marines are arriving, that the U.S. ships are approaching, and there are people who are waiting for this moment? I don't know if you have seen with this news that they are arriving, the U.S. ships of this lady called Magali Meda, who said in a program, a TV show in Fox News, and she was happy to mention this with joy because the time has come for the Marines to arrive in Venezuela, to arrive to Venezuela. The father, Jose Palmares, well, look, I was informed that the time has come, the end of the ends, prayers, and now the fire, but those who are, to all of this matrix of the ships, imperial ships, because in theory this is justified to the battle of narco-trafficking and the Soles cartel. It adds to the declaration of the ExxonMobil employee, pseudo-president of Guyana, saying that the drug that comes into his country comes from Venezuela to be part of this concert of those who want to attack our nation. All of this is combined with the construction of a folder on December 2025 is designated on behalf of the U.S. government. It is designated that the Tren de Aragua cartel is designated as cartel as an terrorist organization. Let's recall that in July, the European Parliament said Venezuela is included in the countries that are laundering money from narco-trafficking. And then there are also a couple of news. The Sinaloa cartel is linked to Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, and they said that Chavo Guzman as well was affirming that actually, Nicolás Maduro had to do with the Sinaloa cartel. On August 13th, another news, Pamela Bondi says, we seized some goods that belonged to the cartel of the Soles, and President Nicolás Maduro held declaration, and then they launched this cartel. $50 million of reward against President Nicolás Maduro, and Capitan Gestal Cabello, 15 million of reward for General-in-Chief Padrino Lopez. I'm going to say to U.S. imperialism that here we have 30 million of convictions, of willingness of a brave people that is allowed and is willing to do everything to defend the national integrity, sovereignty. Our leaders, our President Nicolás Maduro, that has been battling, defending the national interest of the Constitution. And I want to close my ideas with this is all news. It is a repeated folder in several occasions through our revolution process. They have had several strategies of attacks. The blockade. In the face of the blockade, they have the broadened alliances that Venezuela has managed to achieve, also imposing the BRICS as an alternative. That has been one of the alternatives. In second place, the economic war. Let me inform you that we have 17 semesters of continuous semesters of economic growth thanks to the efforts of our people. In the face of the sanctions against PDVSA, where recently the OPEC published its informed that Venezuela overcome the 1 million barrels of oil production, and the oil production of Venezuela keeps growing with Chevron, without Chevron, whoever. The workers of this industry, with our own effort and capacity, keeps growing the production of oil in the country. Regarding narco-trafficking, which is a line of attack in the first 7 months of this year, 2025, here we had Captain Gestal Cabello, over 50 tons of drugs seized. Regarding terrorism, yesterday we saw another capture. We had seized in 2 different places of galpones of thousands of detonators, of explosive charges, of TNT and other things. And yesterday, an arsenal of weapons, especially for snipers of high caliber, .50 that were deployed, that were going to use in this plan of terror and blood against our people. Another of the strategies that they had, Mr. President of the National Assembly, you know very much of this, were the abstention. Let me tell you that in the last elections of 24 governorships, the revolution won 23 governorships. Of 285 parliamentarians, we won 256 parliamentarians. And of 335 mayorships, we won 285 mayorships with a growth of over 80% of the intention. And the other strategy has been migration as a weapon, in the first place, to promote our younger generations to leave the country through coyotes, and we have defeated that policy as well. Venezuela is the only country of the world that has built up a plan to recover their connationals. This year, in the past few months, have been over 10,000 Venezuelans, including children, women, pregnant women that were persecuted and jailed unfairly in the United States of America. Another strategy that was also defeated the ONG, non-governmental organizations that are part of the plans. They have utilized ONGs as a tool to disguise and to try to infiltrate traitors in the revolutionary members. This year, the National Assembly applied a law to go through little by little to defeat, and this I said to the people of Petare and Katia and all of our communes to be very attentive to the ONG. They are receiving money from the USA, from European embassies, and they are part of a plan to try to weaken our social base of support of the Bolivarian Revolution. At last, speak about the criminal gangs. Here we defeated and exposed the Tren de Aragua. This year we neutralized Wilexis from Petare. And like that, all of the criminals, this is the year the President Nicolás Maduro said, to defeat all of the criminals and bands that are part of the conspiration of the far-right and imperialism to try to overthrow our revolutionary government. In the face of that, quadrants of peace. We are strengthening an expansion of the 5,336 quadrants of peace, one for every communal circuit, to guarantee peace, the territorial control, and the sovereignty of the Bolivarian Revolution, and our right to defense and sovereignty. We say to imperialism, we say to the terrorists, you can come here, to the mercenaries as well. You can come here, but I'm very sure that women and men of this homeland and the organized people and the national militias in the perfect fusion, popular, civic, this union, we are willing to defend our sovereignty, our dignity, and our independence at the price, at whatever price. So we're supporting this agreement with all of our strength in respect and regard of our sovereignty, of the institutions and of the Venezuelan institutions and peace. That's all. That's all, President. That's enough. Is it enough? Would be enough to go through some of the interventions of President Nicolás Maduro on behalf of that decree of 2015 in which they declared we were an extraordinary threat. And I think what we need to highlight strongly of those interventions of President Maduro when, during the infamous decree of Obama, when the sanctions began against our economy, our life, our society, the most important thing is that Maduro insisted in which it was an attack against all of Venezuela. It was an attack against all of our women, men, boys, girls. That it was an attack, a criminal way of war of new generations that affected mainly and directly civilians, innocent civilians, children, and the vulnerable population to which the Bolivarian Revolution have managed and has managed to put out of poverty and vulnerability and attend as never before in the history of this republic. And of course there were accomplice voices that pointed out like, no, those are sanctions just against Chavism. Those sanctions affect only Chavism. Now we know what's the real intention and what's the reality. When we set up all of these lies, they launched these aggressive lies against our people and against migration. Do you remember? No, that's to overthrow the government, the Chavista government. So, as a collateral damage, they called us beasts, dirt, and they promoted in an active way, and they won millions with that, promoting the migration of our people to other countries. And an economic migration derived from the actions of the criminal sanctions against Venezuela. In the first period of the decree, then the sanctions, and then utilizing migration to insist in taking power and hand them over the U.S. The only interest they have, not their women, their men, no, the Venezuelan society. On the contrary, they are inside, and where they are allowed to be inside is to destroy countries. You go see Libya, Syria. They destroy countries, Gaza and Palestine. And if you go through, when migration stopped being useful and they stopped getting interest in this aspect, who is the one that has go there to protect our people beyond our borders? President of the Republic, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, who's the one who has sent airplanes throughout the continent to go look for their people, the constitutional president of Venezuela? Who's the one who has been defending, denouncing, and managed to achieve to bring back to the country our 252 connationals, kidnapped and tortured, the immense majority of them that were in opposition parties, that used to be part of opposition parties or had ideas in which they were convinced by this far-right wing opposition leaders. And look what was the real face of the empire when they were tortured and subjected to the biggest human rights violations, jailed 24 hours a day without seeing the sunlight, in a very hard way of facing the reality. And the reality is that beyond propaganda, that's what they do. That's what the empires do to human beings. Those that happen to our 252 compatriots. And what the decent countries do, what does the free countries do, and independent countries, to defend their people without asking in what are they thinking or for who they voted in the past elections, in defending their people. Maduro has never left behind anyone, and I refer to whole Venezuela, and that is why we managed to bring them back at a very high price. Handing over criminals, mercenaries, terrorists, murderers, coup attempters, sociopaths. One of them, a homicide of 3 people in Spain. To that homicide, that murderer, the U.S. authorities that came here to search for him, they took off their handcuffs and take him to a meeting with the criminal Nayib Bukele. There are pictures, a homicide, a people who murdered 3 people, in no way involved in matters, political matters in Venezuela. He was a murderer who tried to kill his former partner, and he killed who he thought was the lover of her former affair, and another person who was on the side of the crime. So we
por supuesto,
Of course,
en cumplimiento de la
in
Constitución y las leyes,
fulfillment of
juzgamos a ese
the
homicida. Y lo
law, we
condenamos.
judge him, and he
Pero
had
había
to
nacido
face
en los Estados Unidos de
jail, but
América.
he was born in the United
Por
States.
tanto,
So,
a los efectos del cumplimiento de la ley
on
internacional, lo
behalf
deportamos.
of the law, international
¿Cuál
law,
no
we
sería nuestra
deported
sorpresa?
him, and what was
Que le
our
quitan las
surprise
esposas
that he
y se da un abrazo con
was
Nayib Bukele.
he was
Es
he
homicidio.
his handcuffs were taken away, and then he was taken
ahora
to meet Nayib Bukele in
está
El
libre
Salvador, and now he's free
En las calles de los Estados
in the
Unidos,
streets
como
of the
dice la
United
canción de Ali
States,
Primera.
of like the son of Ali Primera says,
Que después
a
se volvió
former
un
Marine
homicidio.
who became a
¿A qué
murderer.
me estoy refiriendo?
What I'm referring to,
A que cuando el ministro
that
Diosdado
when
Cabello,
Minister
cuando
Diosdado
Diosdado muestra
Cabello
esto,
showed this,
aparecen otra vez las mismas
the,
voces
again the same
que
voices
estas
appear
granadas, que
that these
estas balas, que
grenades,
estas
that
armas
these arms, that
son
these
solo contra los
weapons are against
que la
Chavistas.
bomba que iba a
That the
explotar
bomb that was
en la
due
Plaza
to
Venezuela
explode in the Venezuela square
bomba
was a bomb
solo para
only to kill
matar mujeres y
women
niños
and
chavistas, supongo.
children, Chavista women and
Que las
children.
municiones que
That the
fabrican en las
ammunitions
fábricas
fabricated in the clandestine
están
ammunition
solamente
industries
dirigidas
are
a chavistas.
only led to Chavista
estas municiones
people,
de alto
and
calibre
these high caliber
están dirigidas
ammunitions are
solamente
destined
a
only
chavistas.
for
Que cuando
Chavista
tenían campos
people.
campos
That
de
when they had
entrenamiento de
training
terroristas
camps of
en
terrorists
Colombia, y
in
denunciamos,
Colombia, and we denounced that,
todos dijeron
all of
que-
them said
que eso era falso, que era mentira,
that
que no
those were
existían
fake news,
tales campos,
that there were no such
financiados
training camps
por
financed by Iván
antes Juan
Duque
Manuel Santos,
before that Juan Manuel Santos and
valga la redundancia,
Colombian
que es la misma
narco-trafficking,
cosa.
because it is the same thing.
Si tú dices Iván Duque
If
o
you
Álvaro
say Iván
Uribe,
Duque,
y el
Álvaro Uribe,
narcotráfico colombiano,
and
debes decir, a
Colombian
continuación,
narco-trafficking, you
valga la
need to
redundancia.
say that they are the same
¿Qué
thing.
es lo que está ocurriendo?
That is what is happening
estos
now
momentos
at this
precisamente.
moment precisely.
Yo invito al
I
pueblo de
invite
Venezuela
the Venezuelan people
a que no nos hagamos eco
to do not
de las
repeat
estupideces
the,
que
the
construyen.
stupidities they
Porque
build
cada
up,
vez son más
because
estúpidos.
every time they
Porque cada
get
vez
more
están
stupid
más
and more
impregnadas de
stupid,
imbecilidad.
and such
¿Cómo
imbecile
van a señalar
ideas. How
que
are
el
they
país
able
con
to
más
signal
victorias contra
Venezuela
el narcotráfico
against
por la
the
acción de su
country
gobierno,
that
que es
has more
Venezuela
victories
en este
against
continente,
narco-trafficking,
no
which is
existe
Venezuela in this continent, do not
en
exist
este continente
in
un
this
país
continent.
con mayores
There are
victorias
no
contra el
other
narcotráfico que
nation
Venezuela
with
en el último
greater victories against
primera
narco-trafficking like
victoria
Venezuela. The first one,
cuando Hugo Chávez
when Hugo
expulsó
Chavez
a la DEA de Venezuela,
exposed the
a la
DEA
primera
from
principal
Venezuela, the
narcotraficante
main
de este planeta que se
narco-trafficking
llama
of this
la DEA.
planet, which is called
Esa fue
DEA.
La primera
That's the
gran
first
acción
great
contra el
action
narcotráfico en
against
Venezuela, cuando Hugo Chávez
narco-trafficking in
expulsó a este país
Venezuela
para siempre.
when Hugo Chavez asked them to leave forever.
Yo lo que quiero
So what I want
señalar,
to point out and invite you
es que
to
estas
think is
estrategias
that those
psicológicas
strategies of psychological
cada vez
war
son más fútiles. Ya
are
lo dijeron Tania y lo dijo Pedro
every
Infante y lo dijo
day
el
get
diputado
more,
Bernabé Gutiérrez. Cada vez son menos
every time
elaboradas.
are less elaborated.
Si no hay un país que
If
haya tenido
there
desde el
is
punto
no
de vista
country that
porcentual
has in a
mayor
percentage place a
incautación de cocaína y marihuana
greater
que
seizing
Venezuela
of
este año
cocaine
2025 y el año
and
2024.
marijuana than Venezuela in
Si no
2024
hay ni un
and
solo
2025. If
metro
there is no
cuadrado
one
de
single
siembra de hoja de
meter
coca o de
square
marihuana
of
en Venezuela,
coca leaves in Venezuela.
lamentablemente,
Unfortunately,
otros países son los
other
productores de la
countries are the
cocaína
producers
y
of
de la
cocaine
marihuana.
and marijuana.
Lamentablemente,
Unfortunately,
Venezuela
Venezuela
ha
has
sido
been a victim
víctima de la acción del
of the
narcotráfico
narco-trafficking
en otros países.
action of other countries.
Todas las acciones
All of
agresivas
the aggressive actions
contra Venezuela,
against Venezuela
llámense explosivos,
through explosives, arms, mercenaries, terrorists, all of
son
them
financiadas
are
con dinero
financed
del
with money
narcotráfico
from narco-trafficking,
colombiano, mexicano
Colombian,
y la
Mexican,
mafia
and the
albanesa.
mafia Albanese, the
Y yo me
Albanese
pregunto,
mafia. And I ask
Los
myself,
Estados Unidos de
is the
América
United States of
van
America
a reconocer
going
en este
to
caso
recognize in this
que están
case that
aliados
they
con
are
el
allied
narcotráfico,
with
con la mafia
narco-trafficking
albanesa, con
and the
el
Albanese
narcotráfico
mafia
colombiano
and
y mexicano para
Colombian
invadir
and
Venezuela?
Mexican drug trafficking to invade
¿Cuándo lo van a
Venezuela,
hacer?
or
Y
are
tendremos que
they
esperar
are
los
they
documentos
not going to do
clasificados
so?
y las
And we
películas,
will have to wait
como pasó con el caso Irán
the
contra,
classified documents and movies
donde
like happened
dinero
in
del narcotráfico
in
era
Iran,
utilizado para atacar a la
in
revolución
which
sandinista en Nicaragua.
like happened in Nicaragua
Lo
with
van a
the
reconocer.
when they did recognize that they were using
hay
drug money
suficientes
to
pruebas
attack the Sandinista revolution, when there are enough proofs
queda establecido
and it is established
que si algo ha
that
caracterizado el
if something
extremismo
has
fascista de
characterized the
Venezuela,
fascist
es
extremism
a
in
su
Venezuela,
alianza
is to its
indisoluble con el narcotráfico
indissoluble
colombiano y
alliance with
mexicano.
the
¿Quién
Colombian
llevó a
and
Juan
Mexican
Guaidó a la llamada
cartels,
fiesta, a la rumba
who
que tuvieron
took
en
Guaidó
Cúcuta el
to the
23
party they
de
had in
febrero
Cúcuta
del
in
año
February
2019?
23rd in
¿Quién? Si no fue
2019,
la peor
who,
banda de
which is
paramilitares y
in,
narcotraficantes
who
era
was
Banda
not
Rastrojos.
the Rastrojos band,
¿De dónde
narco
iba a
traffickers
salir,
of Colombia,
según el testimonio de
from
JJ
whom
Rendón y de Jordan Goudreau,
was going
el
to
dinero para
take
financiar a los
to come the money to
terroristas
finance terrorist
mercenarios
mercenaries
de esa banda
of
de
that
Goudreau? ¿De dónde
Jordan
salió
Goudreau band?
el dinero para
From
pagar al
where
señor
does
Rendón?
this
Según
money
el
came
testimonio de
from?
JJ Rendón,
According to
iba a salir
JJ
del narcotráfico
Hebdon,
colombiano.
was coming from the narco trafficking of
supuesto,
Colombia, and of course
De la plata
from
que a mano
the
llena y de
money
forma
that
inminente le entregaba la USAID
was
a los
handed over by the
extremistas.
USA to the extremists.
Se hicieron un pote.
They
El narcotráfico
they
colombiano,
made a lot of money.
el
The
narcotráfico
Colombian narco
mexicano,
trafficking and also
el
Mexican,
fascismo mayamero
the
y la
fascists
USAID.
in Miami and the USA.
Es cuestión de tiempo
It's a matter of
que
time
lo veamos
that we
en los
see it
documentos
clear in
desclasificados
documents and
o en las
declassified
investigaciones
documents
que
or
se hagan.
investigations.
Es
It
tal
is
nivel
such a
de
level
tontería, de
of
futilidad,
of
que es casi un
stupidity
insulto
that
a
is
nuestra
almost like an
inteligencia.
insult to our intelligence.
Porque,
Because
¿por qué no mandaron ni siquiera un
Because
peñero para el
they-
Pacífico?
they couldn't even send a tiny
¿Por
ship
qué
to
no
the
han mandado ni
Pacific.
siquiera
Why
uno de
were
esos
they
aviones
not
de
even
la
allowed
gente
to
que se
send
pone
some
una especie de
airplanes,
morral que es avión a alguien?
tiny airplane to someone?
¿Por qué no están investigando
Why are
a
they
Noboa,
not
que se
investigating
acaba de robar
Noboa
las elecciones con la
that just
complicidad
stole
del
the
narcotráfico, que ahora es el
elections with
dueño
complicity
de la
of narco
República del
trafficking, that
Ecuador?
now is the
Lamentablemente
owner
lo
of
debo
the
decir.
Republic of Ecuador?
Está
Unfortunately,
completamente
he
cooptada
is.
la República del Ecuador por el
The Ecuador
narcotráfico y
has
la mafia albanesa.
actually fully taken by narco trafficking and the Albanese mafia.
Tantas veces que se ha
So
dicho,
many times
y
we have
hacen
said
oídos
this,
sordos.
and they are
hay un primer productor de cocaína en el
deaf in
mundo
their
y no es
their
Venezuela.
ears. There's
hay
the
un
greatest
país que es el
producer
mayor
of
consumidor
cocaine,
de
which is
cocaína
not
en el mundo,
Venezuela, and there
y no
is
es
the
la
greatest
República
consumer of drugs in the world that is not the Republic of
Hay
Venezuela.
un país en el
There
mundo
is a country in the
que ha
world
combatido
that has
y ha
faced
derrotado
and
a
defeated
las bandas
the
criminales,
criminal
al
gangs
narcotráfico,
and narco
a los
trafficking and
mercenarios
mercenaries
y a
and
los
paramilitaries.
Así que sea quien sea,
So,
el
whoever it
extranjero
is, the
que
foreigner
entre a este
that
país
enters this
sin
country
permiso,
without allowance
pero no
enters,
sale.
but
Aquí se
is
queda.
not due to leave the country. He will stay here.
se queda preso.
He will stay here in
O se queda
jail,
como se quede,
or
pero se
he
queda.
will stay under any circumstance.
Esto no es una bravuconería,
This is not
ni es
ego,
un intento de
neither an
caer en ningún
attempt
tipo de
to
provocación,
fall
¿no?
into any provocation.
Lo estoy diciendo de forma
I'm saying
responsable,
in this in a responsible
sencillamente
way
porque es nuestra
because
obligación.
it is our duty.
Nosotros estamos
We
obligados. Y
are
cuando me refiero a nosotros, me refiero a los 30
obliged
millones de
to,
venezolanos
and
y
I refer to the
venezolanas,
30,000
estén o no en el territorio
Venezuela,
de Venezuela.
30 millions of
Nosotros
Venezuelans.
estamos obligados
We are
a
obliged
defender
to
este
defend
suelo
this
sagrado,
sacred
a
soil,
defender nuestro
to
cielo
defend
sagrado,
our
a
sacred
defender
sky
nuestros mares y
and
nuestros
our
ríos.
seas and
Estamos
rivers, and we are
obligados.
obliged
No es una
to.
elección.
This is no a choice. There is no
Y además,
choice. And besides,
Estamos
we
imbuidos
are very
por el
into
fuego
this
sagrado
inside the sacred
de un hombre
fire
que
of a
jamás
man
le tuvo
that
miedo
has
a
never
ningún tipo
feared
de
any
imperio. Y
kind of
derrotó uno
empire and
y
defeated one
amenazó
and
a dos
threatened
más.
two others.
Simón José Antonio
Simón José Antonio Bolívar Palacios and y Blanco.
todavía
Yet,
no había derrotado
he was
completamente
not
el Imperio
defeated
Español, ni
completely
había
the Spanish
logrado
Empire, and he
aún
managed
la libertad americana
to
que
achieve
consiguió
the freedom
con su
flooding
esfuerzo,
America
con su
that
lucha.
he, through his effort
Poco
and his
tiempo después,
and his
cuando
struggle,
le escribió
few
la ya
moments
famosa
after,
carta
this famous
la que ya todos conocemos.
letter to Mr.
Usted me
Irving.
insulta, no
You
contestaré sus insultos, pero sepa,
you insult me, but I'm not going to reply it, and
ahí en esa
etc.
misma carta le dice,
That in that same
porque
letter
Irving
he
se
said,
burla,
because Irving makes
cree que el
fun
Libertador
of
está
the Liberator
exagerando
and believes that the
acerca
Liberator is
de verdaderos,
exaggerating
los llamaba así,
regarding
así como guerreros
the true
anfibios, lanchas
to
humanas,
the true
porque había escuchado de los
boats,
lanceros que se
because
lanzaban
he
a caballo,
listened
vadeaban los
to
ríos,
those
y
who
con esos
ride
lanceros, vadeando los ríos a caballo,
horses
se metían en
through
las
rivers
embarcaciones de
and
la
get
llamada
inside
Armada Invencible del
the
Imperio Español y los
boats
derrotaban y tomaban los
and
barcos y
ships
expulsaban
of
a los
the
españoles
empire,
del
the
río.
Spanish Empire, and expel them from the rivers.
Y le dijo,
And he
por
said to
fortuna,
him,
se ha
fortunately,
visto con frecuencia
it has been seen
a un puñado
to a few
de hombres
of
libres
free men
derrotar
defeat
imperios poderosos.
powerful empires.
Por fortuna,
Fortunately,
se ha visto con frecuencia,
recently we have
y me
been
atrevo a decir,
seeing,
porque
and
estoy
I
seguro de
would
eso,
dare to
se seguirá
say
viendo
it will remain, it will be seen for the
a un
years to
puñado
come to a
de
few
mujeres
of women
y hombres
and men,
valerosos,
valuable and free
derrotar
women and men to defeat
imperios poderosos.
powerful empires.
Yo quiero entonces,
So I would like,
por supuesto,
of
apoyar,
course, to support,
y voy a levantar mis dos manos
and
para
I'm
votar
going
por
to
el acuerdo,
raise my two hands to vote in favor
yo
of this
quiero
agreement, but
resaltar,
I want to highlight,
y lo digo
and I'm
sin
saying
ningún
this
tipo ni forma de cálculo.
without any
Lo digo desde mi
calculation, and
corazón.
I'm saying this from the bottom of my
Yo quiero
heart. I want to
Resaltar
highlight
el discurso
the
de
speech
un diputado de la
of a
oposición
deputy from the opposition
al que he
to
adversado
which
toda mi vida.
I
vida.
have been an
Yo tenía
adversary for my
24
whole
años
life.
cuando
I
era
was
médico
24
rural
years old
de
when I was
Maroa,
rural
Estado Amazonas, y
physician
ese
in
señor
the
Ramírez
Amazon
Gutiérrez
state,
era el gobernador del
and
Estado
he
Amazonas
was
de
the
los
governor of the Amazon at the moment.
Amazonas. Es decir, que
So I've been an adversary for almost my whole life.
y habiendo adversado toda mi vida
And in spite of this,
y sabiendo
and knowing
que es un opositor,
that he's an opposition, a member from
que
the
siendo
opposition,
opositor
that
siempre
being
ha
an
estado
opposition
en la
leader,
acera
he's
de
always
enfrente,
being on the other side of
desde
the
el punto de
walk,
vista de vida, desde
in
el
a,
punto de
from a
política,
point of
desde el
view
punto
of
de vista de
life, of,
sociedad, de lo que somos
of, poli
nosotros y en lo
of
particular de
policies
lo que yo
and
soy.
of what I am.
Siempre ha tenido un
He has always
comportamiento
had a behavior,
decente.
a decent
respecto al
behavior
adversario.
regarding his adversaries. But today,
No creo que haya sido un
I don't
comportamiento
think
decente
this
solamente.
was. I don't think this
Creo
was
que
just
hoy
a decent behavior. I
habló ahí
think
fue un
that man
patriota,
who spoke
un
here was
patriota venezolano,
a
que
patriotic
milita en la oposición
Venezuelan that
venezolana, que
is
milita
member of
en
the
el partido
opposition
político
and
que
a
asesinó
member
a
of the
mi padre, Acción Democrática,
political
y le
party that
reconozco
murdered
a
my
ese
father, and I
militante de
recognize
Acción
that
Democrática
militant from the Democratic
posición
Action, his
patriota.
position, his patriotic position.
y apoyando
And supporting me
y respaldando.
and
Yo
respecting.
quisiera
I would
proponer
like to propose
que se agregara
to be added
en el texto de
in
del
the
acuerdo
text of the agreement
la convocatoria,
the
la unión
call for
nacional
the national union
de
of
todos,
all of
de
us,
mujeres, de
women,
hombres, de
men,
niñas, de niñas,
boys and
de abuelas,
girls,
de abuelos.
grandfathers and
Así
grandmothers.
como está unida nuestra Fuerza
Like
Armada
our
Nacional
army is united, like the true fusion, police, military and popular fusion, let's call all of us, let's feel this among all of us, including, and let's get rid of the rhetoric. There are things that are way more important than speeches. The integrity of this territory is more important than the military, the political militancy, the defense of peace of our country, of our sister, of our children is more important than the political militancy. For this National Assembly to call for the union of all
con una sola frase.
with a single phrase,
En paz.
leave us alone.
nosotros
We
no hemos caído
haven't failed
en ninguna
in
provocación.
any provocation.
El presidente Maduro,
President Nicolás Maduro,
con la parsimonia
with
y la
his
serenidad que lo
calmness
caracteriza,
that
ha
characterizes
hecho, como
him,
hizo el
has
libertador
made,
con
as
Mr. Irving,
Liberator did with Mr.
sordos de esos
Irving,
insultos.
has made deaf ears to those insults.
Una cosa
One thing
es no caer en
is
provocación.
not to fall into
Y hemos
provocations,
demostrado
and we have
en
proved
público y en privado,
publicly and privately.
porque saben ustedes que es una vaina
Because
bien difícil.
do you know what is very difficult
ustedes cuál
for
es de las
us?
vainas
Do you
más
think
difíciles
what is
que me ha
one of the
pasado en
most
mi vida?
hard things that I had to
hablar con
face in
todo
my life is to speak with those US officials.
Ellos cuentan con
They-
varios papeles para que los maquillen,
They
pero
they
siempre,
have
siempre se
they
les
are
ve el
always using a disguise, but they can't hide their
Una
essence.
cosa es no caer en la
One thing is
provocación
not to fall into provocations,
y otra cosa es
and the
eludir
other
nuestra
is to
responsabilidad. Y aquí
avoid
no hay
our
un hombre ni
responsibility.
una
And
mujer
we
decente
have
en este
no
país que
man
vaya a
and
eludir su
women
responsabilidad
who
de
is going
defender
to
este
avoid
territorio.
its responsibility
vida
to
si es
defend
necesario.
this territory, even with our lives, if it's necessary.
Quisiera agregar también
I would like to add also
que se
that
incluye en el acuerdo
in this agreement it will
Además
be
de la
included,
convocatoria a la
besides the
Unión
calling
Nacional.
to the National
y
Union,
hagamos ya
and
desde este
from this very
espacio,
space
que es el espacio de la
that is the
política, que es el
space
espacio de la
of the policy of the dialogue,
que si es necesario
that
despojarnos de la
if it is
retórica
necessary to get
que
rid
a
of the
veces nos
rhetoric
separa, más que unirnos,
that sometimes divide us
busquemos
in
las
spite
palabras
of
que nos
uniting us, let's find the words that unite us. Let's find
los textos
the
que
texts
nos
that
acerquen
makes us get
con
closer
todas y con todos
to each other,
aquellos que
to all of
amamos
us,
la paz.
to all of us who love peace.
Porque quienes,
Because,
como decía Pedro,
as Pedro
se frotan
said,
las manos,
those who enjoy
ya le deben estar saliendo callos en esas
now
manos de
are
tanto
going to be facing a
conocer. Tienen
reality.
24 años en
They
la
have 24 years in these attempts.
24 años,
24 years.
frotándose manos,
Enjoying this
dando
moment that
ultimátumos
never comes
al
and
viento.
offering ultimatums
porque ellos creen
because they believe
que los gringos les van a hacer
that the
mandados.
US people are going to
ellos
do
creen,
those actions
no sé por qué,
for
porque
them,
la
and
historia
that
de
they
la historia nos ha
believe, I don't know
demostrado
why,
totalmente
because history
distinto,
has proved otherwise,
que nosotros nos vamos a quedar
that we are going to
con
stand
los brazos
still,
cruzados, o que nosotros nos
or
vamos
that
a
we
dejar
are going to let this to
las
happen.
culturas
And at this point of history,
deberían darse
they
cuenta
should
de qué manera
recognize
está
that
hecho Nicolás
of
Maduro
what wooden is Nicolás
y de qué
Maduro
clase
made
de
of,
madera
and
fina
what
está
kind
hecho
of
el pueblo de
fine
Venezuela.
wooden the Venezuelan people is made of.
Quisiera
I would
solicitar que
like
se
to
incorpore
ask
en el acuerdo
to be
también
incorporated in this agreement
una ofensiva
an offensive,
diplomática
diplomatic,
parlamentaria.
parliamentarian
Queridas diputadas y
offensive,
diputados
dear
de la
deputies
oposición,
from the opposition,
queridos y
dear
queridas
deputies,
hermanas diputadas
brothers
y
and
hermanos
sisters
diputados
from
de la Revolución
from the
Venezolana.
Bolivarian Revolution.
Hay
There
verdadera indignación
are
en la gran
there
mayoría
is
de los pueblos
anger
libres
in
de
the
este
great
mundo, de
majorities
los hombres
of the
y
free
mujeres
peoples of
libres de
this
este
world,
mundo,
of the free women and men of this
que no
world,
pueden
that
creer
cannot
la
believe
barbarie
the barbarism
con la que están
with
acostumbrados
which
de la
they are
mentira, la
spreading
falsedad y la
lies,
patraña.
fake news.
Vamos pues,
Let's
con todos
go
nuestros grupos de amistad
with
queridos
all
del
of our
presidente Pedro Infante,
solidarity groups
convoquémoslo,
to call them. Let's call them.
enviemos comunicaciones,
Send
enviemos
them
delegaciones,
communications. Let's send delegations to them for the parliaments of the world to discuss of this continent, discuss and know
que lo que está en
of
riesgo
what
no
is at risk is not
la seguridad,
the
la
security
paz
and peace
y la libertad
and
de
the freedom of Venezuela.
Como dijo el presidente Maduro,
Like President Nicolás Maduro
no se
said,
preocupen,
you
que
don't have
nosotros
to
sabremos
worry
defender
because we
esa
will know
libertad,
how to
esa
defend that
paz
freedom,
y la
that
integridad de
peace,
nuestro territorio.
that
Por allí no se
integrity of our
preocupen.
territory. Do not worry about that. But what it is at risk is the security and peace of the whole Caribbean region and the security of the whole North of America, Central America, and South America. And I'm not saying this in an exaggerated way. If in the craziness, ambitious and unlawful promoted by, they are promoting violence, with which they are promoting violence, it would be a violence that will overshadow the whole American continent. Let's go. Let's see what do the parliamentarians of our brotherly nations have to say about this. A true offensive, diplomatic offensive of the Venezuelan parliament, for our voice to be heard. Dear brothers and sisters, may we bring back the voice of Simón Bolívar to this sacred room. Fortunately, we have seen frequently a few women, free women and men, and valuable women and men to defeat powerful empires. And we will keep seeing this for sure. Thank you, deputies. We were listening to the statements of the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, in the context in which he argumented the support of the agreement for the safeguarding the sovereignty of the country. He also asked, as part of the agreements, to the unity in favor of the sovereignty of the nation, and also an offensive, parliamentary offensive with the groups of parliament of the world. The peace of the region is at risk after these actions of the United States. The debate is going to be closed to vote for this agreement. It is closed already. I'm going to vote the agreement, adding 2 points of agreement, including that one of the resolutions of the National Assembly of our Republic be to kick off an offensive, diplomatic offensive in the parliaments of the world with which this assembly has relations with. In consideration, the honorable deputies that agree that in favor of the agreement of support and protection of the sovereignty of the institutions of Venezuela and peace, with the addings that we made in the framework of the debate, may you raise your hand. It is approved. Next point of the order of the day, Secretary. Considering the request of the Supreme Court in relation to the authorization of the National Assembly for the seize of the immunity, parliamentary immunity, and to continue with the deputy of Mérida, Julio César Torres Molina's trial, in accordance with the 200th article of the Republican Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela's Constitution, and in accordance with the 25th article of the Interior Reglement. This point, Mr. President. Thank you, Secretary. I'm going to offer the word to Deputy William Benavides.